Thank you. I guess everyone can hear me. So my name is Eirik Ekrann. I'm the strategy director at Confer in Norway. So for those of you who don't know Confer, we are probably at least the largest consumer research, insight and consultancy. We have offices in 100+ countries and 30,000 employees or something. Here in Norway, we have quite long roots. So going back to Norsk Gallup, which was established back in 1947. But of course, the company has come quite far since then. AI is integrated into several of our solutions. And it's actually a key area of investment for the company at the global level going forward. So today I'm going to talk about how we use AI to optimize advertising. So that's one of the solutions where we have integrated AI as a core part of the delivery. So first, I'd just like to let you have a short glimpse into the world of advertising. So the first point to note about advertising is that it is big business, really big business, actually. So worldwide, the ad spending is projected to reach $630 billion next year. And that's an insanely high number, of course. But just to put it into perspective, if the advertising industry had decided to establish their own country somewhere sunny, it would actually be the 20th largest economy in the world. So between Argentina, I think, and another Latin American country. But it would be a considerable force to be reckoned with. So advertising is definitely big business. And of course, it would be a very strange country, and I don't know if I would ever want to live there, but it just puts things into perspective. The thing with advertising, and this has really been a fundamental challenge to advertising since the dawn of advertising. So when you're an advertiser, you are dealing with people. You are trying to advertise, you're trying to communicate something, and you're trying to persuade. But when you're dealing with people, it's really hard to anticipate how they will actually react to what you communicate to your messaging. So there's a range of different effects. Some advertising campaigns are massively successful. They are really sort of can change the course of a company. But other ad campaigns, they are ineffective. They fall flat on their face. And you have even ad campaigns that are hurtful to the company, to the sales, and to the brand. And it's really, really hard to anticipate beforehand whether or not the ad campaign that you have is going to reach the core audience or not. So personally, I have probably tested hundreds of ads in my career. I'm still really bad at spotting both good and bad ads. You should think that I had picked up some tricks in that time period, having that kind of experience. But what I have actually learned is that I am a very poor judge of advertising, if it's going to work or not. So you become quite humble in this business. You're dealing with people, and it's really hard to anticipate how people will actually react. And that's kind of what this guy, John Wanamaker, so this is kind of his one-hit wonder quote. I don't think there is any other quote from this guy. But this is what he hinted at even back in the 1800s. So he said that half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. So there's a lot of uncertainty in advertising, and that's a core challenge, of course. And then, of course, we have progressed a lot since John Wanamaker's time. Today we have these metrics and we have these really detailed models that we can run that helps us understand both the short and the long-term effects of advertising. So the short-term effects being sales very often, and the long-term effects being an ad's ability to position the brand in the minds of consumers, which will again help sales in the long run. We can build these elaborate models to really understand the impact of specific advertising campaigns and media, the media mix, as we call it. So the different media channels that you choose to invest in. And we have also A/B testing, which can run during an ad campaign, where you either test different campaign material, or you expose some people to the campaign, and have a control group to see whether or not you're actually reaching the target. If you are leveraging sales, if you are getting the clicks that you want, if you are changing brand perception, which helps, of course, because you can really make your advertising dollars work harder, because you can do adjustments on the fly. Still, this is really just models that help you look in the rear view mirror. So it's useful for sure, but ideally you want something that is more forward-looking, that can be applied early on in the process, when it's still time to reconsider and do larger adjustments to the advertising. Ideally, you want something that can tell you whether or not this is going to be a success before the ad goes live, and preferably even a lot earlier than that, when you are actually designing the ad campaign. And this is where copy testing or pre-testing comes in. This is testing that is done before the ad goes live, before the campaign is launched. And what we're looking for here is really the ability to root out campaigns that have low impact and get learning so that you can optimize the ad campaigns before they are launched. And what you basically do in a pre-test or a copy test is that you expose people to the ad before it is finished, and then you collect a lot of feedback. And that feedback helps you either to say go, no go on this particular advertising campaign, and you can use it to actually optimize the campaign before launch, because you pick up certain topics that is not coming through in the advertising. You see that the storyline isn't really working, etc. And pre-tests use good old-fashioned survey methodology. That's kind of the workhorse when we look at pre-testing and copy testing. What you do is that you expose people, and then you ask them a battery of questions about the ad that they have just seen. And then you compare them typically to norm databases so that you can get an indication of, is this a good ad? Is this a bad ad? Are there some areas in this ad campaign that can be improved? And there's a lot of quite high-tech stuff in this space. So neuroscience has added a lot of techniques that are used in pre-testing. We have this EEG equipment, for instance, so brain scanners that you can put on people that helps you not only see what they consciously think about this campaign, this ad, but also subconsciously what's happening in the brain. How do they react? What is sort of the gut reaction that we get? And that enables us to understand what goes on subconsciously, not just consciously, rationally in the minds of the consumers. And it's also possible, actually, if you don't want to get people into sort of the lab to test this, to use webcams, basic webcams that can read and use methodology that can read facial expression. So there's a lot going on in our faces as audience when we look at different ads. And facial recognition software can actually decode the different facial expressions, which helps us to really understand sort of frame by frame in an ad campaign what's going on. Do people like this? Do they smile? Do they frown, for instance? Which gives us real insights into the gut reaction of consumers. And pre-testing is effective. So this guy, Keith Weed, he's the CMO of Unilever. So Unilever is one of the largest advertisers globally. They're kind of like Orkla here in Norway on steroids. And he says that I've certainly got enough evidence, real hard evidence, showing that ads we've pre-tested perform better in the marketplace than ads we don't. It's inarguable proof. The problem, though, is that pre-testing takes time and money. There's lots of logistics involved when serving a decent amount of people, either getting them into the lab or sending out these questionnaires online for them to fill out. So it takes a bit of time, and it also costs a bit. And this is really a challenge, which means that a lot of advertisers don't pre-test a lot. They don't pre-test everything. And there's even a lot of advertisers that don't pre-test at all. They just trust their gut instincts, send out the ad campaigns, get them live, and then cross their fingers and hope that they will actually be effective. And this is sort of the background for a bunch of our partners that came together and asked us. They said that we really want to pre-test more of our ad campaigns so that we can perform better, so that we don't waste our money on ad campaigns that is not effective. But we need, in order to do that, we need something that is lean and cost effective. And then they added, of course, but still very high quality. So is there a way of cutting down both time and cost so that we can pre-test more? And as luck has it, we in Kantar have the world's largest database of pre-tests. So ad campaigns that has been tested up to this point. So we have something like a little over 200,000 individual ad campaigns that has been tested, probably towards, on average, 200 consumers each. So we have a real strong and large database of individual, how individual react to different ad campaigns, to different ads. And that is quite a powerful data set. And then we had some clever guys that came up with, okay, if we have this amazing data set, we can actually use AI and methodology that is in the open to actually create an AI machine that can do our job for us. So what we did was really to pull out videos from the last 10 years. So 80,000 video files together with the responses that we had collected on all of those videos. So that was a massive data set that we used as a training data set. And then we used video processing technology, so AI video processing technology, together with machine learning algorithms. And then we trained the machine. So the machine shifted through and everything. It tried to look for patterns in the data. It looked for sort of the trends that is very hard to spot with the naked eye. And it learned. So it gradually learned the different elements that it can see in the ad, how that typically relates to how consumers actually react to different advertising campaigns. Which means that what we're now able to do is really to use that AI machine. What we do is that we upload it into the AI machine. The AI machine decomposes that ad into seconds. So it really decomposes it into the smaller sort of segments of the film. And it reads a lot, and it codifies all of this information. So what is that? It looks at every segment of 1 second, and then it looks at whatever we can see in the ad. So everything that can be seen, so characters and animals, objects, locations, branded elements, etc. At the pixel level. It reads and codifies all audio, so everything we can hear, voices, music, noises, etc. And also what we call the transcript. So the words we can hear, what the actors, what the voiceover is actually saying, and also what we can read on the screen. So symbols, slogans, names, etc. Everything that is printed on the screen when we look at the ad. And what the machine sort of spits out is a lot of predictions on key metrics that we use to understand an ad. Will this ad be effective? And where can we optimize? So we have metrics connected to sort of the awareness. So we can make a prediction on what kind of awareness level will we reach when we take this advertising, this campaign into the market. We have metrics connected to short-term effects, so typically sales effects. We have metrics connected to the more long-term effects. That's typically sort of brand building effects. So do this ad actually manage to build a strong position for the company, for the brand, in the minds of consumers? So these are really sort of the core result parameters. But then we also have a long list of metrics that we use for diagnostics. So is the ad persuasive? Do people react to it on a more emotional level? Do they think that it's meaningful? Does it say something important about the product or the brand? Will it have impact? Do people enjoy it? These are all metrics that helps us understand the ad in question. Is it going to perform well? Where is it performing well? On which key aspects? Which enables us to actually look at the ad and say, okay, this is a good ad. We recommend that you actually run this ad. Or this is a average ad. It might be good if you make these adjustments. Or the last scenario, we say, okay, this is actually a relatively poor ad. And we don't think it can be optimized to be a good ad. We don't really see the potential here. So it would be better that you save your money, make a new ad, and then use that and go live in and expose audiences to it. So we have all of these metrics, and of course, good question to ask is, all of these metrics, are they accurate? And what we see is that they are actually very accurate. So when we had the training data set of 80,000 videos that we had both the video files for and the actual results that real life consumers had given us, we also had 10,000 ads where we had the video and the real live responses of real people, which we used as a validation data set. So we let the AI machine run through all of those 10,000 ads and make predictions on each of the different metrics. And then we compared that to the actual results that our real sort of consumers had given us. And what we quickly saw is that there's a very high correlation between what the AI machine predicts and what the real life consumers actually gave as answers, and the metrics that we picked up through interviewing real life consumers. So as you see on this slide, we saw that the correlation between prediction and actual scores is in the region 0.9 and above, which means that the AI machine is actually very accurate in predicting what people will, how people will react to this particular ad, this particular campaign. And what is also good to know is actually that we find very few false negatives and false positives. So either the machine has predicted this is the best ad ever, and it really being a relatively poor ad, or the opposite, that the machine predicts that this is a really poor ad, but that we actually find it to be really good. And the fact that we have validated and that we are running these kind of validations at an ongoing basis means also that we learn quite a lot about the AI machine itself. When does it when does the predictions actually hit the mark 100%, and when does it deviate? So we know, for instance, that the AI machine, it performs well on most ads. The ads that it tends to, its predictions tends to be less accurate is if the ads use very sort of humor that is quite hard to understand, even for real life humans. So strong irony and sarcasm, for instance. If the ad is portraying something that is really hard to understand, so very complex concepts, for instance, that's not something that the AI machine is very good at predicting. And then, of course, sort of very niche cultural phenomenons. And when I say cultural phenomenons, of course, the machine is actually quite good at predicting how different markets, different consumers, different audiences will react. So even though the machine is built on a global data set, it uses local data to actually calibrate the scores that it gives. So it's quite accurate in Norway, for instance, where we have used it quite a lot. It's relatively new, but we used it quite a lot. And we see that it's quite accurate also in for Norwegian ads. So it's not like the things that make a Norwegian ad great. It's completely different from what makes a French ad great. It's the same kind of principles that apply. So in conclusion, AI doesn't eliminate risk and uncertainty in advertising, far from it, but it helps us effectively reduce it. We do that with AI in a very manageable time frame and at a decent cost, which really says that there's no really good reason for not testing. It's really more the case that if you don't test, if you as an advertiser trust your gut instinct and choose to run with the ad without it having been tested, it shows a bit of negligence on your part. That's at least my take on it, because you risk going into the Wanamaker trap, just getting your advertising, just throwing money into the market, and closing your eyes and crossing your fingers and hope for the best. So I think that's a good way to close this presentation. I think it might make sense to say that AI has definitely come to stay in our industry. We have, of course, and we work with a lot of data. So in any industry which use data to try to understand patterns, correlation, it's really been great. And AI is definitely something that we will invest in going forward. So with that, I thank you guys for listening to me. If you have any questions, you can post them into the Slack. You can reach out to me or my colleagues if you want to discuss what I've presented today, or if you want to learn more. So with that, I think that I will leave you guys, say bye-bye,